and talk about this. This is XLA. All right. So here's what came together. I was tasked with putting together an internship program at a large church in Pennsylvania, where I was the missions pastor and on their pastoral staff. And I said, I want it to be more than just free labor for the church. I don't want them just hanging out in the hallways and cleaning gum off the carpet. They might do some of that, but let's make sure they're getting the foundational stuff. So we married sort of an internship experience along with the academics that MSO can provide. And so we watched 8 students within a matter of about 9 months be able to grow in their leadership, in their ministry, in their academics, and in their ministry specific stuff, so that they picked a track, a youth ministry track or a children's ministry track. And they grew personally. So they were growing in all of these areas over those 9 months. And by the end of those 9 months, they were able to meet the educational requirements for licensing level credentialing with our fellowship, the Assemblies of God that this church was in. And how exciting was that? I mean, people have gone to 4 years of college and again, been into such debt to get that, and they couldn't go into ministry. These people, not only did they get the academics, not only did they get the ministry experience, not only did they learn from leadership, the in-context ministry, but we also took them on a 10-day missions trip to Greece. We went to Thessaloniki and Corinth and Athens and Philippi and Berea and walked them in the places where Paul had done ministry and where much of the Bible takes place. And it just opened up their eyes as we were on Mars Hill, where Paul said, I know the name of that unknown God that you have an idol to, or a statue to. I know that unknown God, and his name is Jesus, and he's Almighty God. And we were right there looking at right there in Athens. It was just phenomenal. So they experienced all of that together. And once we went through that process and we had kind of pounded out the pieces of that, we realized we could bring this to virtually any church. If your church has, I want to say it this way, a term my brother would often use, a going concern. In other words, if your church is healthy enough to produce leaders, it doesn't have to be big. It just needs to be healthy enough to be able to replicate the leadership that you have. You can train leaders right where you are. You don't have to send them away and never see them again. You can raise up leaders right where you are. And so we call it XLA because anything can go in the X, right? In fact, Chris, you have experienced the process of the XLA experience there. He's at Harvest Church, and so it's called Harvest Leadership Academy, the HLA, instead of GT. I was at Glad Tidings Leadership Academy. And so, Chris, you've been able to experience this.
Yeah.
I want to have you share a little bit about that, because there's 3 kind of steps that we have. And just before you do share, I want to just share these 3 steps. First, there's the conversation. I can walk through with a pastor on the phone this conversation of what could it look like. And I'm sharing this with you because you might be a pastor watching this, or you might be a leader in your church. You might just be attending a church saying, I wish we had something like this at our church. And so we can have a conversation just by the phone. I can speak with the pastor, the leader of that area of ministry, and we could talk about what it could look like. And then there's step 2, which is a consultation, where back in the day, when we actually went places before a pandemic, I went up and met with the Harvest Church executive leadership team. We talked about the strengths of their church and how could that come to bear in terms of raising up leaders. And then there's the ongoing coaching as you're walking through this. So we believe that XLA could happen in virtually any church that's healthy enough to raise up leaders. So Chris, you experienced these steps. What was that like? And talk to us a little bit about the Leadership Academy model.
Yeah, the process was incredible for us to go through. We the idea of a leadership academy, a school of ministry of some kind has been in the DNA of our church for decades. They have always been talking about, how do we get to do this? Someday we're going to be able to formalize this process. So when you and I were talking about XLA, I brought it to my lead pastor and I said, this might be it. And so then they had that conversation and, decided, hey, we can, take some steps, went through the consultation process. And for our specific context, we had, those 4 tracks as well. We had a pastoral track, a kids track, a youth track, and a music track, music ministry.
Kind of a worship
track. Yeah. So for us, that process was really eye-opening to do something we've always wanted to do. And it's another way to do something that we do all the time, right? We're always, equipping leaders and sending out leaders. But this is a really, the structure that XLA can provide was extremely helpful for us because we want to equip leaders, but we don't want to waste their time. We want to make sure that we have something quality to give them. So through XLA, we were able to give, provide MSO courses along with, in conversation with you, structure a schedule for each student where they're meeting with a coach on staff at our church. And that process was eye-opening and really, really helpful as we, we're still in the process of really seeing what the fruits of HLA could be. But the process has been incredible for us.
Awesome. I'm excited because there could be churches all over the Northeast and the Southeast and the Midwest and the West. There could be all over churches. I sat the other night, Beth and I had dinner at a friend's house, and there was a man and his wife and there's kids there, and they've been missionaries. Help me out, Beth. Was it in, it was South Africa, I believe. Is that right?
They were in more closer to Tanzania.
Closer to Tanzania. I just remember the name of their church. It was called The Ocean.
Yes.
And so, but a large church, like 900 people in this church. And as we just talked through the evening and they asked what I'm doing and why did we move to Missouri, and I'm sharing some of that, this guy, I'll still remember, he picked up the card because I gave him the card to tell him about XLA and what that could look like. He picked it up and he said, the ocean needs this, And so, and again, Beth and I just look at each other and we say, the world needs this. This is such an incredible opportunity to raise up leaders without, again, putting them into debt, without sending them away, having them learn in context. And so, again, we're blown away that maybe God has postured this for his glory and for his kingdom in a powerful way. So, yeah, any questions or input that any of you would have regarding XLA and what that looks like?
Well, Phil, I know for us, in our area here in Pennsylvania, we've got a lot of our juniors and seniors that are actually doing dual enrollment a lot of times. So they've nailed all their classes they needed to, and their senior year just shrinks down. You kind of wonder why go to school for one class. But what I love about this program is the fact that if they are going to do dual enrollment, they can use MSO, but also why not have the XLA available because they're already involved in our church, in our ministries, and to be able to have the best of 3 worlds put into one. I mean, talking about raising up a generation of strong leaders that not only are wrapping up their high school and even some early college, but to be able to learn at such a young age to be an effective young leader. I mean, what a powerful tool and resource that you're putting out there.
Yeah. I love hearing those stories and that input because students all over are finding themselves graduating. Sometimes they don't even know what they want to do. And so they go and spend $30,000 and play video games all night, and say, well, I don't want to be an accountant, but they don't have to do that kind of thing to discover their calling. If there's someone that if it's you, that you sense this, I just wonder if this is the calling in my life. I'll give you another story, an example. Sarah was her name. And we had 2 students that signed up real close to each other. And I'll tell you both their stories congruently here. Sarah was 17 years old. She had been homeschooled her whole life. Her dad was the completely volunteer pastor of their little AG church up in northern Vermont. She was running the youth group at 17. She felt called to ministry, but again, they had very little money. She didn't want to go into debt to find out. And so she took MSO. She ended up going through MSO and then graduating with her certificate, went on to the University of Valley Forge for an associate in arts degree, and went on from there to Liberty University and got a 4-year degree there and is now in ministry with her husband. At the same time, the 17-year-old was taking it. This Audine was her name, and Dr. Audine, she already had her doctoral degree in educational psychology. And she and Sarah were taking this together, and they were learning so much from each other. Dr. Audine, I think she was mid-30s. She was the middle school pastor at a large African-American church in Maryland. And they were learning from each other. Now, I don't think Sarah ever knew that Audine was Dr. Audine Harvey, you know, but they were learning so much. Audine from a 17-year-old and a 17-year-old from, it was just so neat again to see that happen. But to be able to take it, whether you've already gone far in your academic process or whether you haven't even taken a step yet, you can get involved in this and it can propel you to the next step in whatever God has for you. So good. So good to hear those things. So good to hear those things. Well, I want to wrap this up now with, am I still sharing this screen? Is it still being shared or no? Good. Okay. Wait, you're seeing us, but not the PowerPoint, right?
Right.
That's good. Okay. I want to share with you just the gifts that we have for anyone that's joining us. And even if you're watching this on later on Facebook, we would like to extend these gifts to you. It's a little limited time, and you'd need to contact us, and there'll be a link below that you can hit. If you've watched this and you've been with us, we want to offer these to you. So here they are, and anyone watching this can avail yourself of these. The first thing is for students. For any student that, whether it's you or you have a student in your church, your ministry, or in your life, or in your family, maybe it's a I don't know, a nephew or a niece or something, or a grandchild. But for any student, for $50 off the first class, which we're going to make unlimited for any student that you have, we can offer them $50 off the first class. So if you have someone, get in contact with us. We'd like to pass that on. We have a gift for students. The second one is for churches. We talked about those 3 steps, right? The conversation, the consultation, and the coaching. The consultation phase of XLA usually costs about $780 to $800 because there's travel involved, there's lodging, there's honorarium stuff, and we're going to waive that fee completely. And in the age of COVID, we can do virtual consultations with an executive leadership of a church or a ministry, and so we can waive that. So that's not only a gift to students, but a gift to the churches. And then for pastors and leaders, we want to make this available. And I had to talk to the board of MSO to make sure that this was okay, because we want to offer free for 30 days 2 of our best courses, all of the videos in 2 different courses. And I do want to share the screen with you for this one, if it still is here somewhere. Maybe it's not. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's 2 courses that we want to share. One is Biblical Theology of Missions. Dr. John Easter is one of the most brilliant, passionate for the gospel men that I know. And he taught our Biblical Theology of Missions course. Excuse me. And so his videos are available to you for 30 days, for the month of August, for those that are watching now. And also, you could choose between that and our Christian Theology of Worship with, with Todd Marshall. This course is phenomenal as well. And this is like high quality, 5 cameras, you know, really, really powerful. So I'm getting choked up here. My voice is like whatever. I've been doing some construction. So we want to offer those gifts to you. And all you have to do is contact us and we'll make them available to you. We are excited. Thank you for coming and for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Baker, Dr. Beth Baker, Dr. Hall. Thank you, Chris, for being with us here. And Dave, it's great to see you. It's just good to see the ministry there, and great to hear the stories and how MSO can really make a difference in your life. And so there we go. God bless you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And we'll end this now. And I'm going to see how I stop the recording. There we go.